What did you want to tell me?
Oh. Hold him, Marlene! Freeze! Freeze!
It's a Chevy Malibu. We've got to find him.
What are you gonna do with him? Put him on Johnny Carson?
One punk, one repo job, and one of the strangest sci-fi comedies of the 80s. Repo Man 1984, directed by Alex Cox and starring Emilio Estevez with Harry Dean Stanton, didn't just lampoon American consumerism. It became one of the most original cult films of the decade. With UFOs, glowing car trunks, and punk rock anarchy, it was unlike anything audiences had seen before. Here are 20 weird facts you didn't know about Repo Man 1984.
Increase the voltage.
What if he's innocent?
No one is innocent.
Number 1. Repo Man was almost a short film or a comic book. Before Repo Man became a full-length cult classic, Alex Cox didn't even picture it as a feature film. His original idea was either a short student project or possibly even a comic book, sketching out the story of punk kids stumbling into a world of repo men and stolen cars. Cox was fascinated by the surreal side of Los Angeles life, beat-up Chevys, bizarre subcultures, and government conspiracies, and thought the comic medium might capture that gritty chaos best. But when he started developing the project further, he realized the offbeat humor and characters demanded more space to breathe. Expanding it into a feature gave him room to mix UFO paranoia, punk rock satire, and social commentary into one messy, glorious package. What started as a small idea ended up spawning one of the strangest and most enduring cult films of the 80s.
Follow me in my old lady's car. It's right here, okay?
All right.
Number 2. The first person Alex Cox approached to play Bud was Frank Booth. When Alex Cox started casting Repo Man, his first choice for the grizzled repo veteran Bud wasn't Harry Dean Stanton. It was Frank Booth. Not the character from Blue Velvet, but an actual LA actor who went by that name. Cox had met him in the city's underground scene and thought his rough,
"A ride. Hell, that's a good idea. Okay, let's go."
unpredictable energy perfectly matched the world-weary repo man who schools Emilio Estevez's Otto. But Booth was more of a street legend than a trained actor, and Cox quickly realized that carrying such a pivotal role required more stability. The part eventually went to Harry Dean Stanton, whose dry wit and weary gravitas gave Bud a timeless edge. Still, the idea that Bud could have been played by a real-life fringe figure shows just how wild and unpredictable the early days of Repo Man's development really were. Number 3. If the agents had their way, Bud would have been played by Mick Jagger. Casting Bud was one of the trickiest parts of Repo Man. While Alex Cox envisioned a gritty, lived-in character actor, the agents circling the project had something flashier in mind: Mick Jagger. At the time, studios and financiers were eager to attach big names to indie films, and Jagger's rock star charisma seemed like a surefire way to sell tickets. But Cox knew that the Rolling Stones frontman didn't fit the world he was creating. Bud wasn't supposed to be glamorous. He was a chain-smoking, cynical repo man who embodied the worn-out, disillusioned side of America. Harry Dean Stanton ultimately landed the role, bringing authenticity and a perfect mix of toughness and humor. Looking back, Cox joked that having Jagger in the part might have turned Repo Man into a very different kind of movie, one closer to a rock opera than a cult classic.
I never broke into a car, never hotwired a car. I never broke into a trunk.
Number 4. Agents almost kept Emilio Estevez out of the film too. Even Emilio Estevez, who would go on to define Repo Man as Otto, almost didn't make it into the movie. When Alex Cox began casting, Estevez was already gaining traction in Hollywood, coming off films like The Outsiders and carving a spot in the Brat Pack. His agents, however, hated the idea of him taking on such a bizarre, low-budget project. They thought the script was too strange, too risky, and too far from the mainstream path they were plotting for him. Cox, on the other hand, saw Estevez's youthful attitude and rebellious streak as a perfect fit for Otto's punk meets apathy vibe. After some push and pull, Estevez took the role anyway, a choice that gave the film its anchor and helped cement his reputation as more than just a teen heartthrob. Without him, Repo Man wouldn't be the same. If you're enjoying this so far, hit that like button and subscribe for more awesome movie facts. And tell us in the comments, what movie brings you the most nostalgia, and which one should we cover next? Number 5. Otto gave Estevez greater insight into a familial relationship. For Emilio Estevez, playing Otto wasn't just another role. It gave him a deeper understanding of his own family. Otto is a disillusioned young punk, rebelling against authority and searching for direction, which mirrored the generational tension Estevez sometimes felt in real life. At the time, Emilio was carving out his own career apart from the towering shadow of his father, Martin Sheen. In interviews, Estevez admitted that stepping into Otto's world of rejection and mistrust toward parental figures helped him reflect on his own relationship with his dad. The film, with its themes of alienation and self-discovery, ended up being strangely personal for him. While Otto's cynicism is exaggerated, Estevez found a kernel of truth in the character, a recognition of the complicated ties between fathers and sons, and the struggle to define oneself outside of family expectations. Number 6. One of the film's most iconic elements was the result of an accident. One of the strangest and most memorable parts of Repo Man is the glowing trunk of the mysterious Chevy Malibu. That eerie radioactive light wasn't in Alex Cox's original vision.
Soul gets killed over a car. Yeah, I'm calling you an asshole.
It happened by accident. The production had trouble creating a convincing, otherworldly effect, so the crew improvised with what they had. They lined the trunk with reflective materials and used a powerful light to make it blaze when opened. The result looked accidental at first, but when Cox saw the footage, he realized it was perfect, simple, cheap, and unforgettable. That glow became the film's signature image, symbolizing the weird mix of sci-fi mystery and punk chaos at the heart of the story. What could have been a technical workaround ended up as the movie's defining visual, a happy accident that turned into an icon of cult cinema.
Well, I don't know. I figured since I found the car first that you get it.
Number 7. The repo code was kind of a real thing. The idea for Repo Man didn't just come from Alex Cox's imagination. It was rooted in reality. While researching, Cox spent time riding along with a real repo man named Mark Lewis. Listening to him talk about the trade, Cox realized there was something oddly philosophical about the job, with its strange mix of legality, street smarts, and survival. He scribbled down Lewis's words, and many of them later shaped Bud's dialogue in the film. The famous repo code speech wasn't pure fiction either. It was partly lifted from Lewis, partly inspired by Isaac Asimov's 3 Laws of Robotics, and partly shaped on set by Harry Dean Stanton, who helped consolidate Cox's script into one sharp, world-weary monologue.
Eventually, the Earth's not going to be here, and at one time it wasn't here.
What started as field research became one of the most quotable and enduring parts of the movie, giving repo life its own twisted moral code. Number 8. The So Crazy It Couldn't Be True, John Wayne's story was a real story. One of Repo Man's strangest moments comes when Miller tells Otto that John Wayne didn't just die, he was secretly a transvestite. It sounds like pure absurdist humor, but Alex Cox didn't invent it out of thin air. The bizarre rumor was something he actually heard floating around Los Angeles during his time researching repo culture. Cox thought it perfectly captured the offbeat, conspiracy-laced chatter of the city's fringe characters, so he slipped it straight into the script. Actor Tracy Walter delivered the line with such deadpan conviction that audiences weren't sure whether to laugh or squirm. Though completely untrue, the John Wayne story added to the surreal, anything-goes atmosphere of the film. It's the kind of line that only Repo Man could pull off, blending satire, rumor, and outright nonsense into a piece of unforgettable cult movie dialogue. Number 9. Jimmy Buffett said yes to a cameo. Among the strangest names almost linked to Repo Man was none other than Jimmy Buffett, the king of laid-back beach rock. While casting side characters and cameos, Alex Cox and the producers reached out to a wide net of musicians and counterculture figures, and Buffett surprisingly agreed. The idea was to have him appear briefly as one of the repo men hanging around the office, a surreal nod that would have only added to the film's off-kilter energy. But as production schedules shifted and funding got tighter, the cameo never materialized. Still, the fact that Buffett, best known for Margaritaville and tropical escapism, was willing to pop into a punk rock sci-fi satire shows just how wide the film's strange appeal could stretch. Had it happened, Buffett might have been one of the most unexpected faces in cult cinema history. Number 10. Without the soundtrack, the movie might not have happened. Ironically, the film's survival didn't hinge on its glowing car or UFO weirdness. It came down to the music. Repo Man was nearly buried by Universal after a regime change at the studio left it collecting dust on the shelf. What saved it was the soundtrack, which tapped directly into the rising punk scene. Packed with tracks from Fear, Black Flag, Iggy Pop, and the Circle Jerks, the album started moving units on its own, building a cult audience before the movie even had a wide release. Executives at RCA Records noticed the soundtrack's momentum and pressured Universal to finally put the film out. Their gamble worked. Fans who bought the album showed up, and word of mouth transformed Repo Man from a forgotten indie into a cultural touchstone. Without punk rock, it might never have left the vault. Number 11. Iggy Pop looked to a biker movie for inspiration. The Repo Man soundtrack kicks off with a blast. Iggy Pop's snarling theme song, equal parts doom, gasoline, and deadpan wit. It feels like pure punk energy, but Iggy's inspiration actually came from somewhere else entirely. When asked about writing the track, he admitted he was thinking about Roger Corman's 1966 biker film, The Wild Angels. That movie's theme had long stuck with him, and Iggy wanted to capture the same mix of speed, danger, and outlaw attitude, only turned up to 11. The result was what he once called his dream song, a hot rod motorcycle badass guitar speed and death anthem. Though the album version stretched out past 5 minutes, the movie cut hit hard and fast, perfectly setting the tone. It wasn't just a soundtrack opener, it was a musical manifesto for Repo Man's reckless, anarchic spirit.
It's a grand if you'll show me where his car is, Napoleon.
Number 12. One of Repo Man's biggest fans was a notorious scientist. Cult movies often attract unusual admirers, but Repo Man had one fan no one could have predicted: Sam Cohen, the man who invented the neutron bomb. Alex Cox once recalled getting a call from Cohen out of the blue, inviting him to lunch. To Cox's surprise, Cohen wasn't exaggerating. He had been a contemporary of J. Robert Oppenheimer and Edward Teller, and really had created the controversial weapon. Over their meeting, Cohen proudly explained how he'd even received a medal from the Pope for his work, though he admitted his true passions were movies. His two favorites, Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove and Repo Man. For Cox, it was a surreal moment, realizing his bizarre punk sci-fi comedy had found a fan in one of the Cold War's most infamous scientists. It proved Repo Man's cult reach stretched into the strangest corners of society.
Hey, open the door! There's a maniac in there! What are you doing? Jesus, open the door!
Number 13. A decade after Repo Man was released, a sequel almost happened. For years after Repo Man gained its cult following, fans wondered if Otto and the glowing Malibu might ever return. In the early 90s, it almost happened. Alex Cox began developing a sequel titled Waldo's Hawaiian Holiday, which picked up 10 years after the events of the original. Emilio Estevez was even lined up to reprise his role as Otto. The script imagined Otto waking up from a decade-long sleep to find himself in a bizarre, dystopian America. Despite the enthusiasm, the project stalled in development, and financing never came through. The story eventually saw life as a graphic novel published in 2008, but the film itself was never made. While we never got Repo Man 2 on screen, the near miss only added to the legend, reminding fans how much stranger Otto's journey could have been.
I'm standing right next to you and you're fucking singing, cut it out.
Number 14. In the end, a kind of sequel did get made, as a comic book. While Repo Man 2 never reached the screen, Alex Cox refused to let the idea die completely. The unmade sequel, Waldo's Hawaiian Holiday, was eventually adapted into a graphic novel released in 2008. Illustrated by Chris Bones and Warwick Johnson Cadwell, the comic followed Otto 10 years after the events of the film. waking from a decade-long sleep into an even stranger world. The story picked up the same mix of punk satire, sci-fi weirdness, and offbeat humor that made the original so unforgettable. For fans, it was a bittersweet consolation prize, not the cinematic return they had hoped for, but a chance to glimpse where Otto's adventures might have gone. The comic cemented Repo Man's status as a cult universe that refused to disappear, living on in unexpected forms long after its wild Chevy Malibu first disappeared into the sky. Number 15. The Repo Man office was a real Los Angeles location. Alex Cox didn't want a Hollywood set. He wanted grit. So the Repo office in Repo Man was a real repossession company in Los Angeles. Its dingy lot, cluttered paperwork, and worn-out workers already had the raw energy the story needed. Even the way cars were tagged and stacked came straight from reality. By filming there, Cox captured details no set could fake. That authenticity gave the film its lived-in texture, making the Repo world feel like a bizarre but very real corner of LA life.
Is this your car?
Yeah, it's one of them.
One of them.
Number 16. Harry Dean Stanton and Alex Cox constantly fought. Behind the camera, Repo Man was as chaotic as the movie itself, especially between director Alex Cox and star Harry Dean Stanton. Stanton, a seasoned veteran, clashed with Cox over dialogue, blocking, and how Bud should be played. Cox, making his first feature, wasn't about to back down.
Goes.
Right.
Eventually, the Earth's not going to be here, and at one time it wasn't here.
The arguments grew so heated that Stanton even threatened to walk off set. Yet the tension may have been a blessing in disguise. Stanton's irritation and world-weary energy seeped into Bud, giving him the sharp, cynical edge that made the character unforgettable. Cox later admitted that working with Stanton was tough, but worth it. Their rocky dynamic became part of Repo Man's DNA, proof that sometimes behind-the-scenes friction can fuel on-screen magic.
Repo Man's always intense.
Come on, let's go get a drink.
Number 17. The crew called the shoot Repossession. Filming Repo Man was as grueling as the story itself, with little money, freezing nights, and endless technical breakdowns. The shoot quickly wore everyone down. Cast and crew often went without basic comforts, and tempers flared as exhaustion set in. It got so rough, they joked the film wasn't Repo Man at all. It was repossession, because it was repossessing their health and sanity. Emilio Estevez recalled it as brutal but oddly fun, with improvisation becoming the only way forward. Out of that chaos came a scrappy cult classic. Number 18. Repo Man influenced Quentin Tarantino. Repo Man didn't just inspire punk fans, it left its mark on future filmmakers, including Quentin Tarantino. Known for his love of cult cinema, Tarantino has cited Repo Man as a film that shaped his taste. Its blend of dark humor, sudden violence, and bizarre dialogue seeped into his own style. Even the throwaway conversations about shrimp plates and cosmic coincidences echo in his quirky dialogue. For Tarantino, Repo Man proved you didn't need a big budget to create something bold and unforgettable.
No way you can do that on 20 grand, man.
The hell I can't. As long as you got good credit. My credit is spotless.
Number 19. Universal barely released the movie. At one point, Repo Man was nearly buried for good. After Universal acquired it, a studio regime change left the film without support. Executives thought it was too weird and uncommercial, so it sat on a shelf collecting dust. What saved it was the soundtrack. Punk fans were snapping up the album packed with Black Flag, Iggy Pop, and the Circle Jerks. RCA pushed Universal to act, and the film finally got a limited release. Word of mouth turned it from forgotten project into a cult classic. Number 20. Repo Man was almost X-rated. Believe it or not, Repo Man nearly got slapped with an X rating. The MPAA flagged its language, violence, and drug use as excessive, a label that would have doomed any chance of distribution. Alex Cox fought back, insisting the film's punk chaos was satire, not obscenity. After tense negotiations and a few trims, the rating was lowered to an R.
Mira, bud.
Ironically, today the movie feels tame compared to modern standards, but in 1984 it was edgy enough to almost be banned to cinematic exile. And that's 20 weird facts about Repo Man from 1984. From glowing car trunks to punk rock legends and near X ratings, this cult classic is every bit as wild behind the scenes as it is on screen. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment on which movie we should cover next.